He was previously a breakout sensation on reality TV. He was a Moldovan immigrant with a strong will, a fierce temper, and a strong presence on 90 Day Fiancé. But Andrei Castravet's story is no longer about love, family problems, and cultural differences. Instead, it has turned into a warning story about danger, carelessness, and destruction. Andrei Castravet is currently in prison for 2 years after losing almost $1 million in gambling and cheating. In the unstable world of Forex stock market trading, his marriage to Elizabeth Post, which was already in trouble, has terminated in divorce, which the court has confirmed. His fall from grace is surprising and depressing, and the ramifications are being felt far beyond the reality TV fans who used to follow his every move. When 90 Day Fiancé first showed Elizabeth Post and her fiancé Andrei Castravet to the world, there was no denying that there was chemistry between them. Andrei, who used to be a police officer and bouncer in Moldova, met Elizabeth while she was on vacation. Fans loved and hated their whirlwind romance and marriage in 2017, which became a big part of the series. Andrei was brave, had strong opinions, and regularly got into fights. His fights with Elizabeth's family were some of the most famous and controversial parts of the show. Elizabeth argued that there was a man underneath his tough demeanor who was dedicated to making a better life in America. They welcomed their daughter Eleanor and then their son Winston together. Their burgeoning family was the main focus of TLC spin-offs like 90 Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After. For years, they seemed to be the muddy, confusing, but ultimately lasting narrative of love across borders. But celebrity from reality TV doesn't last long. And Andrei didn't want Tobe known only as a husband and father on camera. He wanted more money, more independence, and more stability. Behind the scenes, people were getting more and more restless. Andrei had left his native country, settled in Florida, and gained some fame. But the thought of relying on TLC salaries and infrequent business chances connected to Elizabeth's family bothered him. He wanted to be in charge of his own life and have a lot of money. In 2022, he started to learn about Forex, which is the foreign exchange market. Forex has long been called a high-risk, high-reward place where fortunes can be made and lost in a matter of minutes. The possibility to quickly grow riches without the gradual grind of typical business initiatives is hard to resist. At first, Andrei didn't tell anyone about his trading. He called it a side hustle, which was something they did to make sure they had a good future. But the stakes quickly rose. Court records from Pinellas County show that Andrei moved more than $1.3 million via different accounts between 2022 and 2024. Most of this money was borrowed or gotten in ways that were not clear. He took a lot of risks when he bet. He used assets he didn't own outright as collateral. He used money that was supposed to go to family investments and real estate ventures. Every mistake made the losses worse. More than $1 million had disappeared by early 2025. It's not against the law to lose money in a market that changes a lot. But what got the police's attention was how Andrei tried to make up for those losses. Prosecutors said that he lied about his company transactions to get loans and utilized investor money for things other than what he said he would. The real estate development opportunities he offered to his partners were nothing more than empty shells. The profits he said he could give were not real. The deeper he went, the more complicated the lie got. The turning point happened in July 2025. Federal agents and local police moved in after months of quietly watching. Andrei was taken into custody at a Tampa gas station and charged with wire fraud, lying, and transferring money without permission. The man who used to brag on national TV about outsmarting his in-laws was now facing the full force of the law. The trial went quickly. The financial records showed clearly that there was irresponsible trading, lying, and fraud. The prosecution painted Andrei as a man who had abused trust, wasted resources, and brought people down in his desperate attempts to hide his failure. The defense said he was careless, but not evil. He was a guy out of his depth, driven by ambition and addiction to high-risk trading. The jurors, however, did not change their minds. The court said on August 18, 2025, that the person was convicted. He was given 2 years in prison. People knew that Andrei and Elizabeth's marriage was falling apart, even before the sentencing. Her vocal family and millions of people have always looked closely at their connection. But the controversy made the stress worse than it could ever be fixed. Elizabeth filed for divorce, saying that they couldn't agree on anything and that she had been cheated out of money. She had defended Andrei against critics for years, but the fraud and arrest made it impossible for her to do so. The court promptly concluded the divorce and gave Elizabeth primary custody of their 2 kids. Andrei would only be able to see people in prison when he was eligible. What started as a love story for millions of people ended up becoming a divorce that was recorded in court documents. Fans of 90 Day Fiancé have always spoken up, and this incident was no different. Some others said that Andrei's collapse was unavoidable because he had always shown a desire for power and money. Some people felt sorry for him and said he was a man who was brought down by pride and stress. There were a lot of hashtags on social media. Podcasts talked about the trial in detail. YouTube channels aired scenes from the show, again pointing up red flags that weren't obvious at the time. Andrei, who used to be a divisive but charming person, has become a symbol of missed chances. Andrei is serving his time in a medium-security jail in Florida right now. He will be in prison for 2 years, but if he behaves well, he may be able to get out in 18 months. He has said through his lawyer that he is sorry and that he never meant to cheat anyone. He has promised to start over after incarceration. For now, though, his life is very different from the spotlight. Prison walls, tight schedules, and the deep silence of being free. Elizabeth's next step is to rebuild. She is back to working in real estate, where she is focusing on making things stable for Eleanor and Winston. Inside the medium security facility, Andrei quickly realized that life had shifted from a world of fame, cameras, and adoring fans to a world of strict routines, constant surveillance, and unrelenting boredom. Each day began with an early wake-up, followed by roll call, assigned work details, and limited recreation periods. Meals were scheduled and repetitive, and every movement was closely monitored. For someone accustomed to commanding attention and making split-second decisions, the rigidity of prison life was suffocating. Andrei's previous sense of control evaporated. He was forced to confront the consequences of his choices in stark isolation, reflecting on the millions lost, the lies told, and the family he had failed. Prison counselors tried to offer guidance, but Andrei struggled to internalize lessons he had repeatedly ignored in the outside world. Elizabeth, meanwhile, moved forward cautiously, ensuring that Eleanor and Winston had a stable environment. She resumed her work in real estate full-time, analyzing market trends, managing properties, and coordinating with clients. Each success offered a small sense of normalcy, but the emotional scars of betrayal and public scrutiny lingered. Friends and family offered support, yet the shadow of Andrei's actions and the media coverage of the trial continued to affect daily life. On social media, fans dissected every twist of the story. Clips from old 90 Day Fiancé episodes resurfaced, showing the arguments and fiery temper that, in hindsight, foreshadowed his downfall. Analysts and commentators debated whether Andrei's collapse was inevitable given his temperament and obsession with fast money through high-risk trading. Podcasts explored the psychological toll of fame combined with financial irresponsibility, highlighting Andrei as a cautionary example. Despite the negativity, Elizabeth remained focused on her children's well-being, instituting routines that promoted stability and education. Therapy sessions became a weekly part of their lives to address both the trauma of public exposure and the disruption caused by Andrei's sudden removal. Over time, Andrei began to adapt to his new reality, learning the nuances of prison life, forming cautious alliances with fellow inmates, and beginning internal reflection on his decisions. Letters from family and occasional video calls with his lawyer became lifelines, offering glimpses of the world outside and hope for a second chance upon release. Elizabeth, while protective and firm about boundaries, allowed supervised communication to maintain some connection with her children. The balance of accountability, reflection, and family rebuilding slowly began to define the post-trial period. Court documents showed that the divorce was finalized with Elizabeth retaining primary custody of Eleanor and Winston. Andrei's access was strictly monitored, and all financial assets previously tied to the family were frozen or redirected. The once glamorous life depicted on television had been replaced by strict rules, legal obligations, and emotional rehabilitation. The saga of Andrei Castravet serves as a vivid reminder of the dangers of high-risk ambitions untempered by prudence, and of the fragile balance between fame, family, and responsibility. Fans of the series continued to follow every update closely, but the narrative shifted from entertainment to a cautionary story about choices, consequences, and the pursuit of personal gain at the expense of loved ones. The months in prison were grueling, but each day brought Andrei closer to understanding the full scope of his mistakes. Letters he wrote in solitude revealed regret, insight, and a commitment to change. Elizabeth, observing his progress from a distance, cautiously allowed her children to maintain awareness of their father, framing the story in terms they could understand without exposure to unnecessary drama. The public watched as clips, articles, and podcasts continued to analyze the events, providing lessons for viewers about trust, ambition, and the perils of mixing fame with unchecked financial ventures. Slowly, the once dominant figure in the reality TV spotlight became a symbol of accountability and the complexities of human error, while Elizabeth's steady rebuilding showcased resilience, responsibility, and the importance of protecting family amidst chaos. As the weeks turned into months, Andrei's daily routine in prison became a framework for reflection and adaptation. The monotony of meals, work details, and recreation allowed him to confront his past actions without distraction. Each interaction with guards and fellow inmates reinforced the need for patience, humility, and self-control, qualities he had often ignored during his meteoric rise to fame. Elizabeth, balancing her professional obligations with parenting, meticulously structured Eleanor and Winston's days, ensuring schoolwork, extracurricular activities, and emotional support were all prioritized. She frequently revisited past decisions, analyzing the patterns that had led to Andrei's downfall, and used these reflections to guide her children toward stability and security. Outside, the media continued to dissect every aspect of Andrei's story. YouTube channels replayed infamous arguments from reality TV, emphasizing how impulsive behavior, unchecked ambition, and mismanaged finances could spiral into irreversible consequences. Social media debates ranged from sympathy for Andrei's circumstances to harsh criticism of his choices, with hashtags trending around accountability, reality TV cautionary tales, and financial literacy. Podcasts explored psychological analyses, weighing personality traits, childhood influences, and the pressures of sudden fame as contributing factors to his collapse. Despite the intense scrutiny, Elizabeth maintained a measured public persona, occasionally issuing statements or social media updates focused on her family's well-being rather than sensationalism. Within prison walls, Andrei began to participate in educational programs designed for financial literacy, anger management, and personal development. While these classes could not erase past mistakes, they offered practical tools for reintegration upon release. Letters he sent to mentors and selected family members revealed deep introspection, an understanding of the damage caused, and a desire to rebuild both his life and reputation. The 2-year sentence, though challenging, provided structured time to evaluate priorities. Conversations with legal advisors reminded him of ongoing obligations, including restitution, supervised release conditions, and monitoring of prior assets. Elizabeth, fully aware of these constraints, communicated boundaries to ensure her children's emotional safety. Meanwhile, the fan community of 90 Day Fiancé and associated TLC spin-offs continued to track every development. Longtime viewers expressed surprise at the rapid transformation from celebrity lifestyle to legal entanglement, while newer followers debated the lessons inherent in Andrei's trajectory. Articles detailed the mechanics of the fraudulent forex and stop trades, explaining how lack of oversight, high-risk speculation, and deceptive tactics compounded losses. The financial fallout, including the loss of over $1 million, was often highlighted as a cautionary example of the dangers of mixing personal ambition with public exposure. Andrei's relationship with his children became a delicate subject. Family counselors and supervised visitation policies were implemented to ensure Eleanor and Winston maintained a connection with their father without being exposed to harmful information or conflict. Elizabeth, prioritizing their emotional health, carefully navigated these interactions, often using structured letters or video calls with guidance from professionals. Each successful day in prison reinforced the consequences of actions taken and the potential for measured recovery. Andrei slowly began to understand the importance of transparency, honesty, and long-term planning. The legal case that once seemed like a sensational headline now provided a framework for understanding personal responsibility. Observers outside noted that while the drama had captivated audiences, the underlying narrative was about human error, resilience, and the challenges of reconciling ambition with ethical boundaries. Elizabeth's continued success in real estate, combined with careful attention to her children's well-being, painted a picture of recovery and stability, contrasting sharply with the chaotic descent that Andrei had experienced. Over time, the story of Andrei Castravet and Elizabeth Post transitioned from a sensationalized reality TV saga to a cautionary tale that offered practical lessons for fans, aspiring reality stars, and individuals navigating high-stakes financial ventures. Public discourse emphasized the duality of fame, the allure of recognition and wealth versus the vulnerabilities created by impulsive decisions and insufficient preparation. Within this evolving narrative, Andrei's incarceration became both a period of reckoning and an opportunity for self-directed growth. Educational programs, mentorship interactions, and reflective solitude allowed him to confront his shortcomings and develop strategies for responsible reintegration into society. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's careful management of family life and professional endeavors served as a template for resilience, demonstrating that recovery and stability were possible even after significant personal upheaval. As Part 3 progressed, the lessons for audiences became clear. Ambition unchecked by prudence can lead to destruction, fame can amplify mistakes, and the long-term impact of financial mismanagement can extend far beyond personal boundaries. Andrei's eventual release would hinge not only on compliance with prison rules but also on the internalization of these lessons, while Elizabeth's continued advocacy for her children ensured that the next chapter of their lives would prioritize safety, education, and emotional stability. Life inside the medium-security prison continued to challenge Andrei in ways he had never anticipated. Each day demanded patience, adaptability, and a recognition of personal limitations. From early wake-ups to structured meals, work assignments, and limited recreation, the environment reinforced accountability and self-reflection. Andrei began documenting his thoughts privately, noting mistakes made during his time trading and the consequences of deception in both personal and professional realms. The letters he wrote became a medium for processing regret and envisioning a path forward. Elizabeth, focused on her children's stability, structured Eleanor and Winston's routines with meticulous attention. Homework, extracurricular activities, therapy sessions, and family time were all carefully balanced. The divorce, finalized in court, allowed Elizabeth to regain control over family finances, property decisions, and daily life logistics. Social media continued to buzz with commentary on Andrei's downfall, the specifics of his fraudulent trades, and the broader lessons regarding risk, ambition, and responsibility. Podcasts analyzed personality traits, risk tolerance, and decision-making patterns, often citing Andrei's case as a cautionary tale for both aspiring traders and reality TV personalities. Fans debated whether the outcome was inevitable, reflecting on Andrei's prior behavior on television, his impulsiveness, and his struggle with fame. Within prison, Andrei's interactions with fellow inmates were carefully navigated. Trust was limited, alliances were strategic, and every action was observed. Participating in financial literacy and personal development classes provided practical skills and perspective. Andrei gradually learned to distinguish between impulsive decisions driven by ego and strategic, ethical actions. Supervised visits and monitored communications with his family offered glimpses of normalcy, helping him maintain a sense of connection and purpose. Elizabeth's management of family life emphasized consistency, emotional support, and long-term planning, ensuring that Eleanor and Winston thrived despite the upheaval. Legal obligations, including restitution payments and court-mandated financial disclosures, remained a significant part of Andrei's life, serving as a constant reminder of past missteps. Media coverage continued to evolve, shifting from sensationalized drama to reflective analysis. Articles detailed how high-risk trading, lack of oversight, and deceit contributed to Andrei's legal troubles. Analysts highlighted the dangers of mixing personal ambition, reality TV fame, and financial ventures without transparency or accountability. Fans of 90 Day Fiancé revisited past episodes, identifying early warning signs of conflict, ambition, and impulsive behavior that had now culminated in real-world consequences. Andrei's adjustment to prison life required him to confront not only external restrictions but internal challenges. Regret, shame, and self-awareness became constant companions. Through reflection, structured education, and measured interactions, he slowly began to envision a path forward that incorporated lessons learned, a commitment to honesty, and a strategy for reintegration into society. Elizabeth, observing from a distance, maintained firm boundaries while allowing her children to process the situation at an age-appropriate level. Supervised communication, therapy sessions, and consistent routines helped maintain family cohesion. Over time, the narrative surrounding Andrei and Elizabeth shifted. While initial media reports had focused on scandal, drama, and sensationalism, the story evolved into a case study of ambition, risk management, personal accountability, and resilience. Educational programs and media analysis emphasized that mistakes, though severe, could be instructive if approached with reflection and effort. Social media conversations evolved similarly, highlighting lessons learned rather than solely mocking failures. Andrei's journey underscored the necessity of understanding the consequences of actions, particularly when fame and financial ventures intersect. Elizabeth's trajectory demonstrated the power of resilience, structured planning, and prioritizing children's well-being amidst chaos. As days in prison progressed, Andrei began contemplating future career opportunities grounded in legality, transparency, and sustainability. Skills gained through classes and mentorship allowed him to plan for financial rehabilitation post-release. He explored ways to leverage his experience constructively, potentially advising others about the perils of high-risk investments. Elizabeth's focus remained unwaveringly on her children, maintaining both emotional security and educational progress. The combination of professional focus, personal reflection, and social analysis provided a roadmap for navigating the aftermath of public scandal. Andrei's evolving self-awareness, paired with Elizabeth's structured rebuilding, highlighted the duality of human error and resilience, illustrating the long-term importance of responsibility, honesty, and commitment to family stability.